That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us.
Now, I don't believe that to be true, that all birds, but it was a very, very strange phenomena that during the shutdown we saw no crows. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We are co-hosts Peter Bielman
and I'm Cecil Davis.
Hey, we're just trying to have a conversation without using Google or fact-checking each other. I think you'll find that this particular episode, we're going to throw out a lot of wild stuff about wildlife.
Yep. So I think we're talking about squirrels, and we're talking about crows, maybe a fox.
But you had a retraction from one of our previous recordings. You wanted to set the record straight.
That's right. So we have a listener. She was listening to us, and it showed up on our stats as Israel, but she was actually in Palestine.
So what do you mean stats? What are you talking about for the listeners who are not familiar with podcast technology?
Yeah, so we actually get a list of countries of where everybody's listening. We don't see who's listening, but we know the countries that people are downloading our podcast in.
It's probably one of my favorite things to look at during the week is to see who's downloaded our podcast.
Yep. We had one from Ecuador this week. Did you see that?
No, Ecuador? Really?
Ecuador. Yep, that's new.
No, that don't sound right. But yeah, I guess Guatemala we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot in Germany, England, Australia.
Uganda.
Philippines, Japan.
Yep.
We had a huge listenership in Canada. And it's all but gone.
Oh, it dried up.
It's very sad.
Maybe they'll come back.
Maybe so.
But anyway, so this came across as Israel, but actually she was in Palestine.
Okay, all right. What was she doing in Palestine?
And she was visiting.
Okay.
Sure, yep.
Well, very good. I'm glad we set the record straight.
We did. So, what were you going to tell me about squirrels?
Oh, so I have this yard.
Yeah.
And we're recording from the TDSR studio annex in my sunroom. Hopefully you're not hearing an echo. You probably weren't noticing it until I just mentioned it. Sorry about that.
That's all I can hear now.
But we're in our sunroom. But you can see my yard. It's vast with big oak trees, and squirrels will inevitably bury their acorns in the yard, front yard and backyard. I'm convinced, and I feel like I've heard this, that squirrels really don't remember where they buried acorns.
Really?
They don't remember.
Because I have the same, I have big oaks in my yard.
Yeah.
And so a lot of acorns get buried every year. So you think they're just randomly going around?
Dumping them in the ground.
Right. But I'm just saying when they went to go to find them, they're just randomly going back to find them?
Oh, I don't think they randomly. I think they're sniffing them out.
Oh. So they're not. It's not like salmon going up a river and knowing where they're going. They're just sniffing out.
Yeah, they don't have like a acorn detector built into their brains.
I wonder why they bury them then. Why not just leave them on the ground?
Maybe they've learned that if you leave them on the ground, they dry up and turn into an oak tree and they become inedible. One of the reasons I believe this is because there's a particular spot in my yard. This year, there's 3 holes that the squirrels kept going back to. And the holes got deeper and deeper and deeper. And guys, they're not there. There's no acorns there.
I would have said that don't sound right. The squirrels know where they bury their. I've always assumed they knew where they buried their acorns and went back to them, even though I haven't thought about it very deeply.
They smell the location of the acorn in these particular spots, and they kept going back. There's got to be an acorn there.
Right.
There's got to be an acorn there. They're thinking.
Right. They kept digging.
No acorn. No acorn. And here's the thing. I've got plenty of acorns on top of the grass.
Right.
On top of the ground. They are free to eat those all year long. Why are they burying stuff and digging up stuff when there's still acorns on top?
Oh,
That's very
Are
strange.
they hiding them from other squirrels?
It could be. They could be hiding them from other
but now it's
rodents.
Not random.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing is if a squirrel can smell it, it's not really hiding it, is it?
No.
So they must be preserving it.
I think they're hiding it.
From what?
I don't know. From mice?
Mice or
Chipmunks?
I know chipmunks eat
Birds? Maybe?
I don't know. Birds.
Birds break them apart and peck at them?
Speaking of birds, the other thing we have that come in our backyard are these crows.
Yeah.
Also known as rooks. And I think if I remember right, rooks will come in groups.
Yep.
And crows are more solitary. But
I thought a group of crows
is a murder. Yeah, no, that's right. So that doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's the other way around.
Right.
Crows hang out together, but rooks
are solitary.
But they come in our backyard a lot, in our front yard, and they're, from what I understand, are eating grubs. I don't think they're eating acorns.
Yeah.
They're picking out grubs.
They're picking out something.
But interesting phenomena we noticed a couple times. And we noticed this more than once. All right? When there was a government shutdown, you remember the government shutdown?
Yeah.
Oh, when was that? I guess it was in 2018, maybe.
I've lost all track of time.
I think there was a big one in 2018. That's when they shut down the national parks. People's vacations were all messed up.
Yep.
We stopped seeing crows.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the connection?
We think the connection is that these particular crows, not all crows, because there is a conspiracy that all birds are actually animatronics, robots, drones that are used for observation and surveillance by the government.
We know that.
Now, I don't believe that to be true, that all birds, but it was a very, very strange phenomena that during the shutdown we saw no crows.
Really? And you noticed this yourself?
Can you explain that? We actually, our family noticed that.
Noticed that they would disappear. And they came back after this.
They came back.
We know somebody started a Birds Aren't Real movement as a joke.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, right? Yeah.
Right. It started as a joke, and then it kind of took off. I think they started as a joke.
Yeah, I don't know, but I saw a recent protest about that. People are holding up signs, birds aren't real.
Did you ever read Blade Runner, the novel Blade Runner?
No, I never did.
Yes, that was the big thing in it, was that birds, it was a status symbol if you had a live bird in the novel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then if you had a robot bird, that was like you didn't have status. And so the people that would come and work on the robot birds would show up in a veterinary truck so that other people wouldn't know that your bird wasn't real.
I don't think that showed up in the movie.
No, it didn't. It was too much of a detail.
That's a pretty interesting detail. But what was the significance of that detail?
Well, it was just a status thing.
Oh, a status thing.
If you were able to afford a real bird, then that was a status thing. But if you remember, there is the bird in Blade Runner. There's a bird that makes it in there, that owl.
No, I don't remember that.
That flies around the room.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in there, but it's not in the same depth.
I gotcha.
As in the novel.
So we got squirrels don't remember where their nuts are, and you say that don't sound right.
Right.
I also say that crows, a certain population of crows, are operated by the government, but during government shutdowns, they're not flying.
They're not flying.
You might say that don't sound right. Any wildlife tidbits you would say? I would say the same thing too.
Back to your other squirrel thing. So, can a squirrel fall out of a tree?
Oh yeah,
I've seen a squirrel fall out of a tree.
Oh yeah. But they're like cats. They're fine. They can.
I saw one fall probably 20 feet out of a pine tree one time.
What were they doing?
I don't know. They just fell out of the tree and they landed on a car hood and then got up and ran off.
Oh, well, that don't sound right. Did it fall asleep or?
I don't know. But it just all of a sudden I looked up and the squirrel was falling and he landed on the car.
I thought maybe you were telling me that you were out on one of your hunting trips.
No.
You saw the squirrel fall out of a tree. But this sounds more like in a suburban area with parking lots and cars.
This was at the college I was at, and there was a car parked up next to a pine tree, and he fell 20 feet, hit the car, got up, walked out.
No.
Friends were laughing at him.
So are you.
Yeah. Well, I'd never seen a squirrel fall out of a tree before.
Yeah.
I didn't think they could do it.
Well, evidently, I haven't really seen one just fall. I've seen one jump and miss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
Fall to the ground?
Yeah. They didn't catch themselves. They missed. It's complete miss, and they fell.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I was thinking you saw something. This sounds like the squirrel just passed out for some reason.
Yeah,
maybe he couldn't find his nuts, and he was just kind of weak from hunger.
Right. Yeah.
I would think they have a very good sense of smell.
Yeah. So I was walking into a stand one time hunting, and I heard something coming out of the woods, so I stopped. And a fox almost walked across my boots, head down.
Wait, now, tell me again, where were you?
So I was on a path.
You're walking.
Yeah, I was walking to the stand.
Okay.
Heard something coming, stopped.
What time of day was this?
It was before sunup.
Okay, so it was really almost twilight.
Yeah, you couldn't see a lot. So the fox comes out, almost walks across the tip of my boots, and then walks into the woods. Never saw me. If I'd have jumped, I guess he'd have had a heart attack.
That's fascinating. Good gracious.
He never smelled me, or he never acted like he did.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he was old and lacking some of his faculties.
I think he was. Yeah, I just think he was focused.
Well, really?
Yeah.
On what?
On a scent. I think he was trapping something.
Oh, he was going after something else, and he didn't care about you.
But it wasn't me.
He knew it wasn't fox season.
Yeah.
For him, it was wabbit season. So I was on the James. No, it was the James. No, it wasn't the James River. It was the St. John's River in Florida. Mm. My brother and my dad and I, we were canoeing. Right. And my brother and my dad, they were in a canoe with each other, and I was in a canoe by myself.
Dodging lightning?
No. This was actually part of the St. John's River. It's really overgrown. Mm. So the river it's probably no more wider than this room. So this room is about 15 feet wide. I mean, it's kind of narrow.
Right.
It winds out in some spots, gets narrow, overgrown, and along the shore are alligators. Really, really fascinating to see these alligators slip into the water as you were paddling. And I think we were paddling upstream. We paddled upstream, turned around and came back. We were still in the tidal portion. So even that far upstream, it was affected by the tides. Even saltwater fish would come up that far. So we were paddling and fishing at the same time. And as I was paddling, I stopped and I just started to drift because I was tying on a lure to my fishing rod. And there's these stands of lily pads and some other really thick weeds that grow in the water. And I wasn't really paying attention, and I drift over into them. And then it starts making that rustling sound. The bottom of the canoe starts scraping across the tops of these lily pads. And I look over to my left, and I'm almost coming to a complete stop. I look over to my left, and there's an alligator sunning himself.
Oh, man.
And he did not hear me or see me coming. He was facing away from me. And he's about perpendicular to my canoe. And he's just sitting there, and I look at him. I'm just the closest I've ever been to an alligator. He wasn't that big of an alligator, so I wasn't too intimidated. I mean, in my mind, he was probably 150, 200 pounds. In the reality, he probably was just about a 5-foot alligator. He wasn't that big. So I get my paddle, and I give him a spanking.
Oh, man.
Whoosh. And this thing takes off. And I never realized how close alligators can to walk on the water. But this guy or gal, I don't know, just scooted across the top of the water to get away from me. It was the funnest thing I've ever seen. It was crazy.
What made you hit him?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had to get my paddle in the water eventually to start paddling. So I figured, let's startle him, make sure he gets away.
Right.
I figured it might be better to startle him so he runs away as opposed to me gently pushing him, and he turned around and was like, "Hey, what's this? Oh, it's a human. I think I'll eat him." So I decided just to let him know I was there, and I wasn't going to have anything, and he didn't want to have anything for me too.
That's actually probably the best way to approach that now that you say it. Just go ahead and get it over with. Make sure you're really startling, instead of just kind of all of a sudden slipping up on him.
Well, that's what you've seen these survival shows where they're walking in the woods and people are saying, "Hey, bear."
Yeah.
"Hey, bear."
Hey,
you've probably walked in those situations. "Hey, bear."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Making noise.
We was making, the time we told the story about the time we got cleaned out by a bear. I had been making noise the whole way, and we still got cleaned out by a bear.
"Hey, bear."
Yeah. So, I don't know if that really works. I've seen it on some of these survival shows where people startle a bear by saying, "Hey, bear," and they'll eventually walk off. But
so my in-laws have a closet that's in their garage, and the garage door is usually open. year-round. And at one point, a snake was found in the garage or something. I think we never saw it, but we were just told. So my wife, so now we have this thing where she goes, and when she ever goes into that garage, she'll open the door and just say, "Hey, snake." Hey, snake.
So a buddy of mine and I were backpacking one time, and it was just kind of an odd situation. It was a guy and his sister-in-law were backpacking, and so they were at this same spot that we were at. We were at a shelter, and she had never backpacked before, and so her brother-in-law had taken her out backpacking, and she was also scared of snakes, and so we did the same thing. I mean, so well, not we. I told her that if she would make a high-pitched noise when she walked off into the woods, that it would scare the snakes away. And so she would,
she should have been saying that first. It came from you. That don't sound right.
And so she would, she would walk off into the woods, go to the bathroom, or whatever. I won't even recreate the noise, but she'd make this really high-pitched noise the whole time she was gone.
That was terrible.
It was terrible. It was funny though.
Just between you and me, we came up with several different stories, encounters with wildlife. I am curious to know if our listeners have had any. I'm sure our listeners have had some very interesting, very unbelievable stories.
That don't sound right.
That's right. So if you guys and gals are listening and you have a story, send us a message. Send us an email at tdsrpodcast@gmail.com.
I had a squirrel throw an acorn at me one time. I was harassing him with a fern. This was when I was little. And I had a big fern, like a frond. And I was just kept messing with him in the tree, and he thunked me in the head with an acorn.
So there's for you listeners out there, you can't see my face, but my brow is curled. I'm shaking my head. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Hey, how did you get that close to a squirrel with a palm frond? And B,
he was on a branch, and I was harassing him, and he threw an acorn and hit me in the head with it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No, I'm not buying it.
You did. I didn't know a squirrel could throw an acorn like that.
There's a lot of things that don't sound right about it.
I don't know how he did it.
I don't think they have the forearm strength to pitch an acorn.
I think he did it with his mouth.
He spat it.
Yeah, he spat it. Yeah. No, I think his arms were too small.
But, I think so. But it's a T-Rex problem.
But he hit me in the head with it. I didn't mess with him anymore after that. All right, so the words of wisdom for tonight are from the locust and the ant. You need to store up during the spring for your winter, and not play like the locust. Be like the ant and store up during the summer for the winter. Don't play around like the grasshopper or / locust.
Another wildlife question for us: is a grasshopper the same as a locust?
Yeah,
I think they're different.
I think they're the same.
But back to your words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Store up while the.
Yeah, remember where you store it.
Well, that's the squirrel's problem.
Right. I think you're wrong on that. I think squirrels remember.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, we need our listeners to chime in on this one. Certainly, there's someone out there that has.
I think they're burying it because they are trying to keep it from other things.
I can understand that. That's a good place. I mean, you can't. Where are you going to store an acorn in a tree? If you're going to store something in the ground, it's less likely to be
something
found.
Stores stuff in my lawnmower every fall.
Is that
in winter?
Is it a mouse?
Oh, it's a chipmunk.
Oh, really?
Except I did have a mouse in the cover one time. I had a whole mouse family in that.
Yeah, I had in your lawnmower.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had that too.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
I don't like it at all.
No,
they chewed through the spark plug wire.
Yeah, I had a whole nest. I had young mice and everything.
Yeah, I had them falling out of my lawnmower.
Yeah, it's a rough way to start your spring off.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. So speaking of Happy New Year, this is New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year.
Yeah, what you got going on tonight?
Well, my oldest likes to stay up and ring in the New Year, so I'll stay up with her.
All right, good.
Yeah. So what do you got going on?
I don't think much. I think all our kids are out. The two oldest are out with their friends, and our youngest is going to be babysitting. So I'll be staying up so I can go get her from her babysitting gig. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, they don't sound right, but this is the last That Don't Sound Right of the year.
Of 2022.
So we'll be starting season 3 next.
Is that how we're counting?
Yep.
All right.
So we'll be in season 3. We got some stuff for the new year that we want you to participate in.
Yeah, tell us what's going on.
So we're going to add. So Peter's designed a website for us,
right? And
he's going to add a blog
page.
Yeah, which we've already played around with the artificial intelligence writing the blog page for us.
Full disclosure,
But we would like to give our listeners an opportunity to write a blog post. And then if we like it, we'll post it.
Oh, okay. So we're going to allow our listeners to participate in blogging for us.
Yes, if you want to.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a writer, are you?
No.
Then why are we doing a blog?
Oh, no. But if you want to expand on an episode that we've had, or think you have a story or something that adds to one of our podcasts, write it down, and we'll put it up on the pod.
Yeah, just let us know that this is intended to be a blog post and that you're just not responding.
Right.
If you want it to be a blog post, let us know, and we'll put it in there. We'll give you full credit.
So That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I am your co-host, Cecil Davis, and your sound engineer. Your other host is Peter Billman, and he also does our web design. Our graphic design is Emily Billman. Our merchandise tester is now Giorgio. Our brand ambassador is Brent. And our listener number one, as always, is Scott. So until next Saturday night, keep talking.
Stay curious.